Hey collectors! Today we have an item from First for Figures. This is the Breath of the Wild 10-inch PVC link, which is set to release in March for the US and April-May for the rest of the world. He is set at a recommended retail price of $89.99 USD. However, depending on where you're purchasing at which country, there will be variations on that price. This is actually a standard release. Those familiar with First For, this is their first PVC item and they're making this in hopes of bringing their name to more people. At the moment, they're known to niche collectors, people who collect very large statues, and they want to be known by far more people. And what better way to do this than with PVC? It's cheaper to produce and it's more accessible. I mean, it doesn't cost $100 plus to send a single PVC. As a disclaimer, I have been given this item by First for Figures to review for you. As a collector of Japanese PVC typically, I will be incredibly critical. However, regardless, I am really excited about this figure. I personally want First for Figures to get even better in the PVC market and be thought of as an equal. Starting with the box, they've definitely paid attention to how other companies design their boxes. There's nice big windows, clear logos, and the graphics look great. They've included glyphs on the white sections of the box to keep it interesting while still bright and eye-catching. I like this a lot. The top right corner has a holographic sticker for authenticity. The big window on the front does allow for a clear view of Link, meaning you can see him without having to open up the box. While the back looks aesthetically pleasing, there are a lack of shots of the product, which makes it look a little bit too sterile for my liking. It would be good to have more close-ups of the details. The back has flavor text and the names of all the major people from First For. I'd actually find it pretty cool seeing and recognizing all of these names, thanks to First For being so close to the community. On the top, we have the eye symbol of the Sheikah tribe on a circle die cut window. The bottom is the typical info. Let's open it up. We have the normal tape tabs keeping it shut, so just open it as you would normally. And upon opening it up, we have the tabs cut to allow the top die cut window to be clear. Taking everything out of the box, we have Link in the blister and a cardboard insert. The cardboard insert is quite thick cardstock. It looks to be somewhat corrugated. Definitely need to be careful of damaging the corners. It seems quite easy to go and have nicks. I really like the color scheme on this insert. The watercolor work is really nice. It just is very, very nice to look at. The blister is a standard two-piece. There are also no twist ties, which I am very thankful for because I can't stand them. And the blister itself is quite wide, so I can see this warping over time. And if we look at my copy, around the back in particular, there is already instances of warping. This isn't a horrible issue, but it does mean over time that it will be a little bit more difficult to take him in and out of the box. There is no tape along the edge of the blister, which again is no issue. And at the bottom is a little promo leaflet. So I'll get the blister open and have a look at that. So, the leaflet has information about First For, a couple of sneak peeks for future Breath of the Wild polystones, and a display suggestion using the cardboard insert. It suggests that you cut these parts off. I think this is kind of cool, but it does mean that you're permanently damaging the insert. If that's not an issue for you, it'd be pretty cool to use this as a background diorama. The leaflet also has a free 500 points that you can add to your First 4 account, which, those unaware, 1 point equals 1 cent. So that means they're giving you $5 off one of their products that you can use whenever you want. Well, I think that's enough about the packaging. Let's get to the main course. So starting with the base, it has the Sheikah eye in a very vibrant blue, and there are glyphs along the edge. The base is really weighty and it feels quite good. Feels really balanced as well, which was something I was particularly worried about. I'm glad to say that I don't think you have to worry about this. There are paint errors. You can see that it's been hand painted, but more care definitely needs to be taken. I am really thankful for the fact that there's no clear plastic support, unlike some other Archer. The pose used is the main pose that's used in a lot of artwork. It's a good choice. Even the Amiibo has used this pose. I personally really like it. This pose allows for Link to be viewed from pretty much any angle. An issue with a lot of PVC items is that if you have it on any angle other than where they've gone and sculpted it and how they've intended for it to be viewed, it looks really weird. That's not an issue at all here. They've done really well. He feels really dynamic, there's a lot of movement and flow, and it doesn't feel like an awkward action pose. So let's look at the paint. This is where I'm going to be most critical since I'm very particular about this. There are good parts and there are bad parts. But overall it is very clear that First 4 aren't new to this painting thing. Well, they're not, so you'd hope that that would show. From a distance, Link looks good. The paint is vibrant, there are no glaring errors, but if you look a bit closer, there are quite a few errors. Particularly around the rope where, I don't even know what you'd call this thing, goes and ties. Yeah, the rope here is not very nice. There is also a bit of paint bleed in several other sections. But, that said, they've gone and painted even the smallest areas. And that is definitely a good thing because it shows an eye for detail. They've also used the right kinds of paint in the right areas. So if something's meant to look metallic, they have used metallic paint. If something's meant to be matte, they've gone and used matte. Another issue that I have is that there is very little shading involved in this. Because the sculpting is quite good, having him under natural light, a lot of the shading that you would get from shadows does help bring this back up. But I personally do prefer my PVC to have the shadows included on the paintwork. The sculpt overall is fantastic. Again, you can tell that First 4 aren't new to this, and I'm very thankful for the fact that they've gone and used the skills that they have before to follow through here. They've gotten the face right. I know a lot of people have made jokes about First 4's faces in the past, because some of their older products are less than ideal, but really they are doing a fantastic job here. The folds in the clothes and the extra lines in the clothing are all done really well as far as the sculpting is concerned, and I'm really happy for what they've gone and put out as their first PVC item. A lot of the faults that I'm finding are ones that I would actually expect from a company that is very new to making PVC. You can see that they've gone and put a lot of thought into it, and it just seems to be an issue with the lack of experience with the material rather than being careless. A detail that I particularly like is that the back of the shield actually has sculpting for the wood. And the belts are done so well. There's a little bit of paint bleed, but overall they just look great. I think they've done a fantastic job here. The biggest fault that I have as far as the sculpt is concerned is with the hair. The hair has a lot of seams, and it looks like that middle ground between putting a lot of detail in and leaving it quite blocky. The seams look particularly obvious, and I know a lot of people would have an issue with this, so it's definitely worth me pointing out. From a distance, it's not that big of an issue. It does fall relatively naturally overall, and the way that they've gone and sculpted this does mean that you don't have the typical hairpiece that you will see in PVCs most of the time. In regards to this, I would actually say that I would prefer to have that. The details on the bow itself, I really like. Overall, the details on this is really well done, especially for a company who's new to the PVC scene. It really makes me excited for what they're going to put out next and how they're going to improve. So at the start of this video, I mentioned the fact that Link is a 10-inch PVC rather than a scale. So I wanted to bring out a couple of other figures to help illustrate what his scale is actually. So first we've got the Bishoujo Jason. So this is a 1/7 scale kotobukiya, and if you compare, height-wise they're about the same. That said, my typical guide to comparing scales is looking at their head. So as you can see, Jason's head is significantly smaller. So let's grab the next item. Here we have Kotobukiya's Rona, who I've also done a collectible catch-up review of, so check that out if this is an item that you might be interested in. And she is sitting at 1/6. Looking at her head, it looks about right. So that puts him closer to a 1/6 scale than Kotobukiya's 1/7, but I'll grab the next item. This is Good Smile Company's 1/7 scale of Ichika. This one is actually known for being quite big. It looks like around a 1/6 scale. So this is definitely something that you should take with a grain of salt. Have a look at Link. He is around a 1/6 to 1/7 scale, so if you prefer larger figures, this is definitely a good one. He isn't a small 1/8, because if you have a look at him compared to a 1/8 scale from Ulta, he is significantly bigger. So Link, I would actually say, is more for the fans of Legend of Zelda and people who are very excited for Breath of the Wild. But there are a lot of painting and sculpting issues, so for the more discerning collector, perhaps not quite the item to get just yet. Unless you're willing to forgive a lot of these faults for a Legend of Zelda item that happens to be something that you're passionate about. He's really affordable compared to a lot of scales these days, considering he is sub $100 US. And for something that is between a 1/7 and a 1/6 scale, that's a really good value for money. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope that this has helped inform your decision on whether you're wanting to pick this up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I'll see you next time.